Hey, apparently Jay Glazer says that other teams are interested in Mike McCarthy. So there is that out there. And
he is going to be a free agent.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, if the Dallas Cowboys decide to move on from Mike McCarthy.
Is that the best possible ending? Like Mike finds a place that desires him, wants to sign him as their head coach, and the Cowboys can kind of move on, get a fresh start without having to necessarily break ties?
Also,
maybe for the fans as well. Like if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, is that optimal? Or, I mean, it feels like that's a team we talked about yesterday that you're not sure how to view them. And at this point in time in the season, we know they're not a playoff team. It's not Dak Prescott in there. CeeDee Lamb shut down for the rest of the season. It feels like they're just coasting to get to the offseason to make some of these big decisions, first and foremost, the head coach. And so I am curious for Cowboys fans, like, do you want Mike McCarthy back? Like, forget what Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones wants to do. Do you want him back?
I think it's a valid and legit question to ask. I think when it comes down to it, if you're looking at it from the injuries perspective and you want to say, you know what, we can run it back with Mike McCarthy, I don't think too many people would be upset with that. If you're looking at it and you're saying, well, we've seen what we believe to be the ceiling of what this team, what it is, we've seen it, which I believe we have. If you're asking me my opinion on it, I don't think that they're a Super Bowl contender. I think they have one or two elite players, but I don't think as a team that they are of the Super Bowl contending caliber. I believe that it starts up front, and they're nowhere near as good as they have been in years past, if you ask me. And that's on the offensive side more so than anything. But the defensive side, their defensive front isn't phenomenal either. So now granted, you'll get DeMarcus Lawrence back and you'll have Micah Parsons back healthy next year. Interiorly, I still think that they got to make sure that they're able to get it done there. But I wouldn't. I mean, if you parted ways with Mike McCarthy and you thought it was based upon bringing in someone like Mike Vrabel, I think that would generate more excitement than bringing him back. If I'm being honest, that would be my take on it.
They've been very complimentary as of late. And I do wonder, meaning they being the Jones family, Jerry and Steven, and I do wonder if this is sort of, them trying to do him a solid on the way out the door and really, because if the goal was we need to see more, we underperformed last year, especially in the playoff game. We need to see more out of this team, from this coach and see better results. Like injuries or not, they've underperformed. And
grossly.
Yeah, so I look at it and go, okay, so either that was just Jerry throwing out a bunch of stuff like we're all in this year before the year, and upon further review, he's like, maybe that's not fair. Or, no, he was serious about this. He recognizes they've already made the call. They're going to move on from him at the end of the year and go in a different direction. But they're just going to sit here and talk nicely about him on the way out the door because he's been a class act there. There's been no issues. He's dealt with all their stuff that they've thrown out, comments they've made about the offense, et cetera, et cetera. Like, if you went into the season saying we need to see better results and you didn't get better results, then they've probably already made the call. And injuries are not, even when Dak was in the lineup, they were getting blown out in games. I mean, New Orleans blew them out at home. Like, they were terrible. So I look at it and I wonder if the call's already been made. They're just playing nice on the way out the door. Now, Stephen Jones was on The Fan in Dallas. Can we just call it The Jones, by the way? Skip The Fan. We'll just call it 105.3 The Jones in Dallas. He was speaking yesterday about Mike McCarthy and potential interest elsewhere.
I think Mike's done a great job considering the challenges that we've had, and Mike Zimmer the same way. I mean, it's been a a new group out there, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's a combination of cornerbacks, whether it's the D-line. I think Mike's done a good job of getting the guys prepared. He doesn't surprise me a bit. I mean, Mike's an established head coach in this league. He's won Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl championship. He's been to multiple championship games. Obviously we had a tough start with the COVID year that everybody was trying to get their hands around, and followed that up with 3-12 win seasons. And then, of course, we've had this year, but this year's been a challenge for the obvious reasons with injuries. It doesn't surprise me a bit there'd be interest in Mike McCarthy.
Does it play a role in anything on determining whether or not you would like to bring him back?
Like you said, we'll address all this after the Commanders game.
Yeah, he's done.
Oh, no. Yeah, he's out of there. Out of dead man walking.
Is that where we're at now with owners when they talk about the job security of their head coach? Either they endorse him, they make it known that he's going to be back, or they don't. And they make a comment where they say, well, we'll address that at the end of the season. Or is that just how owners should always handle it? Because if you say one way or the other, then you might come back to regret it. Think about the New York Giants right now. Now, granted, there's still a game to be played, and they had a nice, win this past week, coming back, knocking the Colts out of playoff contention. But I do wonder if that's more ownership talk, right? Like, is that how we define that? Like, just always say, we'll talk about it at the end of the season. We don't need to discuss it right now.
Dead man.
Yeah.
Dead man
walking.
That's uncalled for. Last show of the year.
I'm with you, though, Q. It sounds reasonable and sensible, but Mike McCarthy, he's out of there. After hearing the way Jones said that way, he's out of there.
Out of there.
Yeah. You got to give a guy a vote of confidence, jeez. Because nothing's going to be determined in this last week. Like, Washington is not going to – that game is not going to determine what they want to do this offseason. So to even say that, to insinuate, let's get through this game and then we'll talk about it after this game, their season is done. They're going to play this game, and whether they play well or not, maybe it does have a bearing on it. Like, I don't know, but I can't see how it does, because the season's over for them. Like, they have a game, but there's nothing. What are they really playing for? It's like, okay, it's the Washington-Dallas rivalry. If they play really well, Mike McCarthy keeps his job. I don't know that that's the case. I feel like if they've already made that decision, or if they're going to make the decision to go in a different direction or to keep him, I think it's already been made. It's already been discussed. They already feel like they know what they're going to do.
I think Ben Johnson gets the gig if they move on from McCarthy over Vrabel. I don't think Vrabel would want to deal with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Like, he would get a red ass in Tennessee. I don't think he wants to deal with what Mike McCarthy had to deal with, where it's like, hey, Jerry and Stephen said this on the radio yesterday. Hey, Jerry and Stephen were talking. I just can't see him wanting to put up with that. But Ben Johnson, first-time head coach, opportunity. He clowned the Cowboys earlier this year. They had that game last year where, they were trying to put a tackle eligible, and they had all that issue. I just think there's familiarity there, and I think Ben Johnson's the hot commodity. I could see them going in that direction, more so than a Vrabel. But who knows? Maybe we can gamble on it at some point and make our picks. Mike Vrabel's going to have to. He's going to get to choose. By the way, do you think if the Raiders' job opens up, everything on the table, do you think Vrabel would choose that and his relationship with Tom Brady over some of these other potential landing spots, like a Jacksonville, like a Chicago, like a Dallas, if it were available?
I don't know how to answer it. The only thing I would say quickly is you got to be careful of getting in business with your friends. Yeah. They've got a great relationship, friendship, dating back to their time together. And Mike Vrabel can't make the decision to join along with that, because at some point, when you get into business together, unless you've got a very defined and you understand how things are going to, how they're going to go when they fall apart, there's usually emotions tied to it. And so maybe they have this sort of relationship that can handle that. But I don't know that the Las Vegas Raiders is the best situation for Mike Vrabel. Like, he's got to look at it and say, I get another crack at becoming a head coach. Who's going to give me the best opportunity to go in there and win a Super Bowl? I mean, we've heard him talk about before. I mean, literally donating one of his testicles in order to be able to win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's not me making something up. He's been.
I think it was more than that.
Yeah, well, both. Okay. I think his direct quote was he had no longer a need for it at this point. So that's how badly this man wants to win a Super Bowl. And if that's the case, do you really look at the Las Vegas Raiders as a team that, if we're looking at the AFC West, you're at the bottom of the barrel? And I don't think it's going to be that easy to be able to climb up that mountain against Kansas City, against a surging Chargers team that's now getting Justin Herbert and the rest of those pieces to play to their potential, and a young Denver Broncos team that's looking to be a potential playoff team. It's not going to be an easy division, easy task if you're Mike Vrabel, despite the friendship with Tom Brady. I think there are other opportunities out there that are probably going to look more attractive. I could be wrong. Maybe the relationship matters more to him, and that's how he'd want to do it. But I would say if it comes down to your best chance to win right now, I'm not sure it's the Las Vegas Raiders. Actually, I'm pretty positive it's not.